You've been cooped up in your house a while now, maybe going a little crazy, and probably thinking you should learn to make your own bread. Well, this ciabatta recipe is perfect if you're working from home. I'll show you how to make this delicious bread on your pomodoro breaks. If you're not familiar with the pomodoro, it's a 25-minute period of work followed by a 5-minute break. Here's the schedule. Tonight you'll make the starter before tomorrow's work. You'll spend 1 pomodoro tomorrow prepping the recipe. Then you do a pomodoro of work. Check Slack, send emails, fix a bug. And on your 5-minute break, you'll fold the dough. Then another pomodoro of work and fold the dough. A third pomodoro of work, fold the dough and turn on the oven. A 4th pomodoro of work, and then we'll take a longer break to cut and shape the dough. While that's rising, you've got a 5th pomodoro of work to do. You'll stick it all in the oven and then do a shorter pomodoro, about 20 minutes. You'll want to watch this one the first time because ovens are different and you don't want to overcook it. Here's what you'll need. About 750 grams of bread flour. All-purpose flour will work too. 18 grams of salt, which is on the high side, you can reduce that. 35 grams of olive oil. About 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. I use instant yeast. I'm sure dry yeast will be fine. Beyond that, a kitchen scale to weigh the ingredients, a bowl, a square pan, saran wrap, parchment paper, a flat tray, an oven, other basic things. All right, so for the starter, you're going to weigh out 250 grams of room temperature water. It doesn't have to be warm. Room temperature is perfect. Next, you'll weigh out 250 grams of bread flour, or all-purpose, and you'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. Again, I use instant yeast. If you only have dry yeast, that's fine. Stick it in a bowl, mix it all together, and cover it with saran wrap. Let that sit overnight, and you'll have a starter tomorrow morning. Okay, so in the morning, we have our starter. We're going to add to this about 500 grams of flour, 313 grams of water in addition to that, and we'll add our salt, our olive oil. We're going to knead this and then stick it in a pan. All right, so first we're going to measure out our 500 grams of bread flour. Next, let's get 313 grams of room temperature water. We'll do our 18 grams of salt now. Stick that salt right into the flour. We'll want about 2 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast. If you are using a packet, you could just dump the rest of it. If you used only a 1/4 teaspoon yesterday for the starter. I'm going to just mix that up a little bit. Let's measure out our olive oil for later. I like to use these containers. I'm sure there's something better. 37, good enough. Okay, this is the hardest part in all of this. We're going to take the starter, mix everything in. Ooh, that smells delicious. Fold it in some of that starter. I like to use the dump all the water in at once method. Let's mix that up. Okay, once that's generally mixed up, we could add the olive oil and start kneading it. Since ciabatta is a very wet dough, we're going to knead it in the bowl, and I'll show you that technique. It'll start out a little sloppy first, it'll get a little fluffier towards the end. And so what we're gonna wanna do is stretch the dough to stretch the gluten and make it stronger. And so we'll try to start lifting this up. Looks like a mess now after about 8 minutes. it'll be nice and fluffy and we'll be able to transfer it into the pan. It's getting a little fluffier now, only after a couple minutes. You can see it's getting to be pretty smooth and it's not flopping around as much. You want it to stretch up and fold under. Stretch and fold. You don't have to go fast at first. All right, when you're done, it will be a lot smoother. It'll be a lot stretchier. It won't flop around as much. Okay, so that is the worst part. That is your daily exercise, and it's easier from here. Next, we're going to oil up a square or square-ish pan. Coat the bottom, coat the sides. This dough is very sticky, so you want this well oiled. All right, now we're going to transfer the dough into the pan and flatten it out. Spread it out. Okay, you're going to cover that. I don't have a lid for this pan, so I'll use another pan. Hey Siri, set timer for 25 minutes. Go do some real work and come back here to fold the dough. Okay, what you want to do is fold it 4 times. The dough is sticky, so you could put some olive oil in your hand. You're gonna lift it, stretch it, and plop it right back down. Alexa, set timer for 25 minutes. All right, do your next batch of work, and I'll see you back here. Okay, Google, set a timer for 25 minutes. You'll notice that it's a lot more airy. This is usually where I turn the oven on because mine takes a really long time to preheat. Okay, Google. Alexa, hey Siri, set a timer for 25 minutes. The dough is now nice and fluffy, so we need to lay this out onto the table and cut it up, shape the individual ciabatta rolls. We're gonna let it sit for 25 more minutes and then stick it in the oven. We're gonna need to coat the table with a good amount of flour since this dough is very sticky. Okay, so we're going to stretch the edges to make this generally a rectangle. I like to split this into 7 pieces. You might think it's uneven, but you always want to eat one right after it comes out of the oven. So I'll take this side. For my first one. We're going to fold it by stretching it, pressing in the middle, folding the top over, and pinching. I'll leave that there. I want to add some flour to the top of all this, forgot to do that. And then splitting this into 6 is pretty easy. Cut it in half. And cut these into thirds. Some will be bigger, some will be smaller. Not a big deal. I lay them seam side up. We'll let them sit for another 25 minutes, and we'll just add parchment paper to the trays ahead of time. We're going to take each piece, slightly stretch it, put it seam side down. Little stretch, seam side down. Let's stick these in the oven. All right, these should bake for about 20 minutes, a little shorter than the other pomodoros. But if you're doing this for the first time, your oven might be different than mine. The temperature might not be set exactly correct. Keep an eye on them between 15 and 20 minutes. All right, it's time to take them out. There you have it. You've got ciabatta. I hope this was a productive day for you. Like and subscribe. Maybe I'll make more videos. Until then, enjoy.